We are on.
We're live.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another Facebook Live with Skillfully Aware. I'm Nick Kelso, impact producer here at Skillfully Aware. And we have
I'm Mark Pirtle.
Dr. Mark Pirtle.
Just call me Mark.
Call him Mark. Welcome to 2019, everyone. We're
Happy
super
New
excited for 2019. I hope you have a lot of great stuff in store. I know we do. Tonight, we're going to talk about raising awareness and relieving suffering.
Indeed.
So
Yes.
this is going to be a great conversation. And before we get too deep into that, I want to just give a quick shout out about our class, Project Skillfully Aware,
Right.
which is starting on Tuesday. So a week from tonight.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yep. A week from tonight.
On the 15th.
On the 15th.
Yeah.
It's at 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern.
So,
and we're recording the class too, so if you can't make it, you can just watch the recording.
Yeah, we always have the pre-recorded versions, and Mark's going to tell you a little bit about that while I share this Facebook Live on my timeline here, which I encourage you all to do too. Feel free to share this with friends, tag a friend, share it with friends, like, comment. The more interactivity here, the better. Let's have a conversation. So Mark's going to give you a couple more deeper insights about Project Skillfully Aware.
Right. So Project Skillfully Aware is a 6-class course that it's an hour a week, and we'll do it from, like I said, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and it's webinar style. I will teach you how to expand your awareness through meditation and mindfulness, how to attune to yourself. And you're going to learn these skills that I teach to help yourself feel better. So the class is very therapeutic. And if you're struggling with any repeating pattern in your life, could be a pattern that is relational, could be a pattern that comes up around a substance or a behavior that you'd like to grow past, or it could be a physical pattern that you have, a chronic pain or some sort of psycho-emotional thing like depression or anxiety. So it's really if you're in a life transition or this pattern is getting you down and you want to create the capacity to see the pattern making inside of you, that's what this class is all about. And I've been teaching it for over a decade. I started this curriculum when I was working at a major rehab center in 2007, and I've generalized the programming. And so, like I said, if you're struggling with a pattern and you want to take this time at the beginning of the year, your New Year's resolutions is a great time to take the class. So, and it's donation based, so there shouldn't be any barrier to you taking the class and being able to afford it.
And all donations are 10% of all donations go to PATH.
Yeah, we have a nonprofit called PATH, which is Personal Accountability to Happiness, and we're teaching mindfulness-based attunement and ethically based mindfulness to children and families, schools and agencies, and so that's what that's the goodness we're trying to spread in the world. So if you take the class and you give a donation, some of your donation goes to PATH.
Yeah. So we welcome you in the class. It's really easy to log on, enter the class, and you actually, during class, you get emails from Mark throughout to help direct your learning. It's very interactive. We'll get you in the chat group. So yeah, would love to have you there. Any questions about the class, just message us on Facebook or email us, info@skillfullyaware.com. And I posted the link there. So there's the link to Project Skillfully Aware. Check it out. There's more details. And again, reach out. We'd love to answer your questions about it. If you want to, you're on the fence, we'll get you on the line with Mark. We'll talk about it. And we think it's a good class. I know it is. I've taken it, and my wife and I really enjoyed it. So, So that said, I think we should get started. All right, let's get into it. Thanks for your patience, everyone. So raising awareness and relieving suffering. Mark, how do these concepts work together? Are they one? Are they two?
Yeah.
Well, how can I apply this to my life this year in 2019?
Well, so suffering is there's that aphorism that pain is inevitable and suffering is optional, and that's true. But it doesn't feel like that sometimes. Sometimes it feels like suffering is just coming with a particular circumstance or condition. But suffering is actually the amplification of a situation that doesn't feel good, some distressing situation, some physical or mental thing, some relational thing. And the pain of it is just sort of the bare feelings, and the suffering is what gets added on to the bare feelings. The thinking, the rumination, the indigestion, all of that turns into suffering. And so it's not only an amplification, it's a prolongation. So you get a higher intensity, a longer duration. That's suffering. So how awareness is connected to that is certain people are more susceptible to suffering based on their perspective on the world. And there are really, and we talk about this in the class, and I'm going to just touch on this briefly because it gets really complicated, but the basics are easy to understand. And so our consciousness grows up. Obviously, a child's consciousness isn't able to handle the complexity and the detail and the emotional responses that an adult does. And so there's a growing, a maturing of our ability to handle situations internally, externally, as we grow. And so our consciousness is able to juggle more and more, and that's a measure of our maturity. And we grow through sort of three stages. The first stage that arises in a developing consciousness is called the concrete stage, and that's where a person in the concrete stage has a very concrete, solid sense of themselves. They identify with their body, not so much their subtle interior. It's their body and everything you can see, everything that's outside. And people that are stuck in a concrete frame get big emotions because everything feels so concretely real. Now, as we grow into, and most adults are here, unless they're really under stress, then you kind of fall into the concrete, and we can probably all relate to that. But most people live in what is called the subtle realm, where a person is able to think about their own thoughts, about their own feelings, feel into their thoughts, get a sense of the internal dynamics, the emotional inside of someone else. These are subtle objects, not concrete objects, but this subtle interior of emotions and story in my head, that you're able to be in relationship with that. And when you're in relationship, you can get a perspective on your own perspective. You're interacting with subtle objects, okay? And at that point, if you can take a step back, and you learn this in this class, how to do this, to get a perspective on your own perspective, then you can pop yourself out of the concrete. And even though whatever situation you're in may be intense, it isn't as much suffering as falling into the concrete, okay? And lastly, there's a perspective that is, in the past, in the East, they used to call it an enlightened perspective, but what we know now is it's just a natural growth of consciousness, and you grow into a relationship with another, and it's an ultimately subtle object. It's your awareness, and awareness isn't an object, but when you become meta-aware is what it's called. You are aware of your own awareness and the objects in your awareness, all the subtle thoughts and feelings, but when you become the awareness, the sense of a self kind of dissolves, and there's a sense of creativity. Things are going to work out in like there's this spiritual or God's timing. There's ultimate creativity, and because you don't have to have things work out a certain way, you're not tied to a concrete objective, even a subtle objective.
And I think I remember from class, and maybe you're getting here, sorry, but you're, most of us are in the subtle, but we can all have a taste of either the higher or the concrete.
It's easier to fall into the concrete though, because we already know that. We grew through the concrete, and so it's much easier to fall down into the concrete. So the concrete is always there. It's our trailing edge. The subtle might be our center of gravity, and the meta-aware might be just a potential. Like you don't understand it until somebody shows you, and this class actually shows you how to have a meta-aware perspective. And did you get a meta-aware perspective from the class?
Yeah, and at times, that's what I say. So it isn't necessarily this thing that you finally reach and then you're there or something, right? It's like, but you know, maybe no one's ever explained, for me, no one had ever explained that to me, that this is an option. I can think about that as I'm learning the meditations from you, as I'm getting to that place when a situation would arise where suffering is going to occur. It's a lot less impactful than it was maybe when I was more concrete, or even on the lower end of subtle, where I find that I think that I can reach meta, maybe in small bits, maybe I'm not even there, maybe I'm the upper end of subtle, but I was able to see that.
Yeah, okay, and so once, it's kind of like the understanding or the knowledge pops the bubble. Like, you don't have to think about, am I doing this? Once you've had the experience, you know that you've had the experience and you can recreate it. And so that's what this class is all about. And then we also give practices that enable you to continue. And what the practice does is it on a daily basis, you set some time aside to consciously put yourself in a meta-aware perspective. And when you do, your brain changes. If you're in the concrete perspective, there are certain brain circuits that are activated. If you're in the subtle or the meta-aware, different brain circuits are activated. And so the more you practice meta-aware perspective, the more these brain circuits associated with the meta-aware perspective are exercised and grow more complex and are easier to use. And so the more you use it, the more easier it is, until it kind of comes online, and then it's in sort of an automatic thing. And it used to be that, you'd have to, in Tibetan lore, you'd have to live, 3 countless eons before you became enlightened. And it's just not true. Once you understand and somebody gives you some practices to do, and you have the experience of it, it's actually something that you can work on and develop in a very short amount of time, relatively, and it makes a huge impact on how you experience your life. Even if externally, like the concrete things aren't going well, you handle it so much better. And when you do, and when you're not under all of that stress, then the mind-body issues, the heart disease, the indigestion, the chronic pain, the depression, and the anxiety, like all of those things that people are taking tons of pills for, start to dissipate on their own, because you're taking much better care of yourself and your subtle insides. So that's really...
So you're suffering less, back to the title of this talk, raising awareness and relieving suffering. So with that practice, you're suffering less because you raise your awareness from concrete, from subtle into meta-aware, right? So you are actually physically feeling better. And you are physically different.
The experience that you have changes the structure of your brain. When you have an experience, you develop a memory of that experience, and that memory involves a brain change, a circuitry change. A dendrite connects with another synapse connection happens, and over time you build up this different brain architecture, and you are a different person when that happens. So
yeah, it takes practice just like anything, but it's also
totally worth
attainable.
it, yeah,
and totally worth it.
Yeah.
You know, as a newbie here, you know, I took the class in March, right? I have my meditation app. I was able to say, wow, I've meditated, you know, over like about 150 times or something.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that feels pretty good. It's like, and it totally changed. You know what I mean? It totally started to get easier. I was able to get into that state easier because practice. So anything that seems daunting, whether it's meditation, learning a language, learning a new skill, it's just, you need that start. And I think a great way to start, you need a teacher to start. And so if you're on the fence, or this is concepts that you're into, that you're thinking about, Project Skillfully Aware is a great way to start, because you're going to this Tuesday be able to start learning some of these concepts and kind of be held accountable to sticking with the practice.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to hold you. I mean,
we're going to hold you.
I'm not going to shame or guilt you, but
no,
you know, just
that's
make
what
it
the
available.
community's for.
There's a community. There's a community, and everybody. You know, you can, if you want to, get an accountability partner. You know, it's so much easier to exercise with someone else, and you can do that too. You can connect with somebody who's also taking the class and say, hey, Shirley, will you, you know, tell me if you're meditating today? I've got this physician in Mexico City. Her name is Ida, and she and I WhatsApp each other. Did you meditate today? Yeah, I got my 15 minutes in. So
yeah,
so
we need
everybody can use an accountability partner.
So that's what that is. I want to say hey to Leonard. He's on here. Hey, Leonard.
Hey, Leonard.
And it looks like Cynthia was saying hi to you, Mark.
Oh, hi, Cynthia.
Cynthia's
Oh my gosh, Cynthia.
So,
old friend.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. So if we don't have any other questions, I just posted another link to Project Skillfully Aware.
And if you've taken the class before, you know, some of you who are on have, please share this video and the class with your friends. We have restructured it for 2019. It's donation based only, and 10% of the donations go to PATH, Personal Accountability to Happiness, teaching ethically based mindfulness to children, families, schools, and agencies.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so class starts Tuesday. January 15th at 6 p.m. PST. And the link is there. It's easy to sign up, and you'll get an email kind of how to get started and everything. And thank you all so much for joining us.
Also, just if you watch this video afterwards when it's not live and you have a question, just reach out, because we will be monitoring the news feed there, and we'll get back to you. Yeah, and if you don't want to put your question out there publicly, it's totally okay. Just email us, info@skillfullyaware.com, or send us a message on Facebook. Yeah, either way. Easy way to do that. Great. So thanks so much, everyone. So have a great night. All right. Happy New Year, everybody. All right. Bye.